Hi everybody and welcome to Just Saying. It is February 3rd, 2014, and I am joined here, as I am every week, by my lovely turquoise lady, Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Kim. You should have said I'm joined by my lovely snow-enclosed house, which is what we are tonight. Co-host Mary.
Mary's Igloo.
I know. You know what? The snow. We finally got snow that you can make snowballs out of. The snow that we've been getting has been that light and powdery stuff, and it's been no fun. When you can go out there with a leaf blower and get rid of 8 inches of snow, that's no fun for the kids. It's fun for us. But today it reminded me on how much I like that dry powdered snow better, because I bet you we got close to 10 inches of snow, and it was the heavy kind. So, and then, if that doesn't get you, we're supposed to get another 6 inches plus tomorrow with ice. Now try and say that and be cheerful.
Now.
Yeah, well, anyway, how are you? How's the weather out there in balmy Texas?
43 on the way home. I'm so mad at the radio weathermen I could scream.
What'd they do to you?
Well, you don't know how to dress. Like I told you, we were supposed to get sleet and snow this morning.
And yeah, that's right.
Then it was
I think we got yours and somebody else's.
Yeah, and then it's up in the higher 40s and.
So, you know what? I've decided to stop worrying about it.
Well,
if it snows, it snows.
And I'll take it if it comes, but stop telling me the weather's going to be way down here. So I wear like layers and layers and layers, and then you get to work and it's way up here and you're burning up.
Well, I have a meteorologist in the family, so I contact him, and he's pretty good. He goes right down to the time frame as to when things are going to start. So, and speaking of starting, we have a really good show planned tonight.
I heard that.
Now, isn't there a rumor that Just Saying has a good show tonight? Well, we have good shows every week, but
I was going to say rumor has it we have a good show every week.
That's right. But tonight is an extra special show because our guest tonight is not only a good friend to Just Saying, she's also the innkeeper to the historic Battlefield Bed and Breakfast in Gettysburg. So tonight we'd like to welcome Florence Tarbox to the show. Hi, Florence.
Hello, Mary. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, well, if you could see me, I've got a grin from ear to ear because I just love talking to you. And so does Kim.
Well, I'm really anticipating having you come out. It's going to be a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah, we should. And we are going to talk about that. We could give our listeners a little teaser right now that there's an event scheduled this upcoming weekend. I will be there along with my other partner in crime, Mark Sarro. We are of Para-Co-op, and we'll be doing live streaming investigations. So anybody at home who gets nervous around the ghosties and stuff, you can watch us. Sit back, order the hot wings, whatever it is that makes you comfortable, and watch us do all the work. But we would really like to have you there in person, wouldn't we, Florence?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a lot of fun to have a lot of people helping out.
Yes, we always have a good time. So for those of our listeners that have never, been to the show that you've been on before, could you give them a little history to the Battlefield Bed and Breakfast?
Oh, absolutely, and thank you for asking, Mary. The Battlefield Bed and Breakfast is a Civil War farmhouse that is on the Gettysburg Battlefield. It's the Cornelius Houdelin farm, and the Cornelius Houdelin farm was right smack in the middle of a cavalry battle during the Battle of Gettysburg. We have history related to both the owner, Cornelius Houdelin, who was an abolitionist, and then we have the history of the units that fought on the property itself. And all of them are very long and complicated stories, so you'll have to let me know how much of that you would like to hear. But we've turned the whole property into a bed and breakfast where you can come and stay. We have 8 rooms in the farmhouse, a room in the barn, and a little cottage on the property, and have a wonderful time with our guests sharing the history.
Well, I guess the most important feature there is the fact that part of the battle was fought, or not fought, but on the third day, I know something, and I should know this, and I do know it, but it's just not coming forward right now, so you're going to have to tell me. What did the third day, how did breakfast?
Okay, this is exactly what happened. During the time that Pickett's Charge was happening a little further up the Emmitsburg Road, there was a cavalry battle down on our end, and it was Union cavalry, 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry, including units like Gresh's Lancers, and they were fighting Confederate infantry. And during that time, this is news to you, Mary, I don't think you know this, that we now have documented that the barn truly was used as a field hospital, and the farmhouse itself was General Merritt's headquarters during the battle.
Wow, you know, I knew from day one that farm was more than, the barn was more than just a barn. So I'm not surprised you're telling me that, because we have gotten many EVPs. I've had a couple psychics in there, and they've seen troops that were hurt. We've got moans and groans and things that aren't just your normal, you know, ow. And so you're not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Well, I think probably you know it before I did, because I had always been under the impression that the cavalry galloped across and clashed up at the edge of the road, and that what was happening on the property was sort of on the fringes. But now that we've gone back to the documentation on the battle, we realize a lot more was happening on the property than I was originally aware.
Yeah, and it shows, I know when we go there, and I'll get into that in a minute. So what were you just saying about General Merritt? Because I just like jumped off my chair when you said about the barn being a hospital.
Okay.
It was like that. I knew it.
Right, you knew it. You knew it long, long ago. General Merritt was one of the cavalry commanders. He was very interesting young man, about 29 years old, breveted general right before the Battle of Gettysburg. And the troops that he led fought across the property, but it's now documented that he used the house itself as a command center during that part of the battle. So it was a military headquarters, as well as being a farmhouse on the battlegrounds.
So I guess that's why the rooms that you have, the way they're named for a reason, correct?
Right. We have taken every room and named it in honor of the troops that have fought on the property. We have in the farmhouse 4 Confederate rooms and 4 Union rooms, all representing units that fought on the property during the Battle of Gettysburg.
Very interesting. You know, it's amazing nowadays with the computer and how you're able to look a lot of things up, how these things just come alive. When you found the documentation, where exactly was this?
Yeah, we have a fellow that is new doing history programs for us. And Frank has been doing the research for me, and he has the documentation. I can find out for you, but I can't quote his sources right now because he did the research.
Right. I agree. Kim, I think I interrupted you there for a second. Every time poor Kim goes to talk, I just get excited and I jump like right over her.
I forgot what it was now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was important, but now it's gone.
All right, well, maybe Florence, if we keep talking, it'll come to the front of her head again and she'll get it out. And then I can see her, so I know when she's getting ready to talk, so I'll just stop in the middle. Let's talk a little bit about the Swan Cottage. I know there's a little story behind the Swan Cottage because it wasn't always on the property.
Right, and thank you for asking about that also. Swan Cottage is a 1920s house that used to live out on Pickett's Charge, and the National Park has been making a very good effort to remove all the non-historic properties off of the Gettysburg National Military Park. And in the 1950s, they were very, very active moving houses that had been built after the battle. And this particular house was moved down to the end of our line. which is a little bit ironic because it is still on the battlefield, but it happens to be privately held portion of the battlefield. It's not held by the national government. So that house was moved from Pickett's Charge, and then it moved down to the end of our lane, and I was fortunate enough to be able to purchase that as well as the farmhouse. So we have it as a private cottage that our guests can stay in if they would like to be a little away from all the hubbub of the bed and breakfast at the farmhouse, and if they would like to have a kitchen and a little special privacy.
Kitchen my eye. I know where the good breakfast is.
Kim flies all the way from Texas just to have that breakfast.
That's right, especially that great cobbler.
It is worth flying in for, absolutely, and I hope we keep it that way.
Well, if you want to have a little chuckle, Robin Marie, she was with me back in July when I got sick. That was unfortunate. Oh. So picture me, okay? I'm laying in the ER. I got tubes coming out of every which way. And for those that are listening, I was a stoop nod, and I didn't drink enough during an event on a farm in Gettysburg. It wasn't at yours. We were somewhere else. And it was like a 90-degree day. But in my defense, I was staring at a porta potty, and I really didn't want to have to use that. So later on that night, I wasn't feeling so well. And the next morning, I think it was 6 o'clock, we had an ambulance come, and I was embarrassed, but I had to stay 2 days in the hospital, dehydration. So here I am, I'm laying in the ER, and I've got the mask on, I've got a couple IVs going, and they're pumping all kind of stuff in me. And Robin, being such a wonderful person as she is, she stayed with me. She was there in the waiting room and rode over. And she had asked to come in to see me. And I'm laying there, and I looked over to her and I said, "It's almost 9 o'clock. Make sure you get back for breakfast. It's really good."
Mary, you have always had your priorities in the right place.
I know. Well, hey, that's all part of it. I mean, I love your place. I love everything about it, but your breakfast kind of stands out.
Oh, okay.
So she's like, "Who's worried about breakfast? You're laying in a hospital bed."
Let's break this down, shall we? You show up, there are fresh, warm cookies.
Oh, yeah.
You get up in the morning. There's a wonderful breakfast that you will hurt yourself eating, but you can't stop eating because it is that good. So you force the pain on. And then if you're lucky enough to be part of one of her cheese and wines or the evening dinner, oh my God, go for the homemade green goddess dressing. All I got to say.
Oh my goodness. Now wait a minute. Let's remind everybody, this is a very historic battlefield bed and breakfast that sits on a 33-plus acre farm. They're not a restaurant.
No, I didn't say.
It don't sound like it is.
It's an absolutely beautiful bed and breakfast, except for the horse, but that's my own personal issue.
Well, Florence, I tell people about your breakfast. Her breakfasts are so good, you don't know whether to eat it or hang it on the wall.
We take pictures of it. We always take pictures of it.
Oh, we do. And then we post it on Facebook, and everyone's drooling. And they're like, "Those pictures off." Well, we can't help it. But, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up the breakfast is anybody who is lucky enough to go to the Battlefield Bed and Breakfast, from the moment you pull in and you walk in, Florence's staff is just unbelievable. If there's anything that you need or want, all you have to do is ask. And I mean, I don't know that I could work for you, Florence, because if somebody came along and said, "I need to have pink feathers in my room," I'd look at them and say, "Well, go to the store and buy them." But your staff is so accommodating. And I've been there so many times. I feel like I'm part of the family there, and they just treat you so wonderful. But I sit back and I look, and you know what? It's not just me that gets treated nice. It's every one of your guests that walk in.
Well, the last time I was supposed to be there, that one girl, the first time I was there, who I gave the earrings to, she makes it a point to put them in every time she hears I might be there.
That's right. That's right. So it's you're very detail oriented, And I can't say that you're just lucky because you picked right people to work there. They follow their leader, and you are a wonderful leader in that place. And, you know, myself and others that go there do appreciate just all that detail and that care that you put into everything there.
Well, it feels wonderful to be appreciated, Mary. Thank you. We really, really do love our guests, and you're right, they are all family.
I agree. So let's move a little bit on. We'll touch just a little bit on the ghosty stuff, because you are on a paranormal network for the most part. And although everybody's sitting there now and they want to run to the store to go grab something good to eat because we just kind of got them going. Anyway, you see that, Kim? I just lost my train. I know. When people come there, I noticed that in the rooms. By the way, speaking of rooms, I'm going to go back into that General Merritt suite. And if you all remember, I swore I'd never go back to the General Merritt suite because of that incident that I had where something picked up my leg. Here's the big ghost hunter, right? And I'm afraid of ghosts. I'm not usually afraid of them, but that was kind of creepy. But I'm going to face my fears, and next weekend I will be in the General Merritt suite.
Are you going to be in the big room or the small room, though?
Well, I'm not going in the small room. I'm going to, Sal and Jen can go in that room.
So you're not facing your fears totally.
Hey, I'm going up the top of the steps on it. Anyway, I notice in your rooms you have books where people write their experiences of things that go on, the paranormal, so to speak. What's the most, I try not to read these books because I don't want to be prejudiced and say, oh yeah, I think I felt that or I saw that. So I'm one that when I go there, I don't, for personal reasons, I choose not to read them. But what is some of the most common things that your guests experience?
Oh, the most common things. There are sort of themes to their experiences. And one of the themes is a child. They visit with a child. And the child often has playmates in the room with her. It's usually a girl. And so I have guests that write about their interaction with this little girl. She's either playing with their children or she's doing mischievous things in the room, or they just know that she's there. Very, very... The word I use for her when they describe her is, it sounds like she has a silly sense of humor. So she seems to be a joy for everybody who does run into her. There's also a healing spirit that people talk about, and that spirit is a young adult woman, and she hugs people, she sits next to them, she caresses their hair, caresses their shoulders, taps them. And she seems to be a little more physical than the little girl who is just seen around and her giggling and moving things a little bit. And then the other common theme is a little more sober with a Civil War soldier. And he sometimes is standing outside. Sometimes they see him more often outside or in the barn than they see him in the house. Although there's a figure in blue that sometimes people talk about seeing upstairs. So those are probably the three different things that are most common.
Well, what about you? Have you experienced anything?
The kind of things that I have experienced, I don't think I'm as sensitive as a lot of people. There's one of the rooms that we have that's in an area that was outdoors during the battle. It's been added on since the battle. And that room is a room that people tell me often they hear the soldiers marching or hear the drummers drumming. And I've gone up there and heard the sound that sounds like the drummers drumming. Very, very clear drum beats up in that room. And then I don't know if it was the little girl's voice or some other voice. I heard somebody calling me on the occasion. But that's really the extent of what I've experienced myself. I just feel a sense of peace in the house.
Yeah, it's one of the few places. There's two actually that I love going to. and yours is one of them, where when I go, I sleep. I feel comfortable. It's almost like, and I'm sure Kim will agree with me with this. You know, we've been to a lot of places, and especially yours, I've been there numerous times. And we have a theory that we do believe that the spirits start to get to know who you are, and they recognize you. And if they've got something they want to say, they'll let you know. If you're good to them, and that's one thing that Kim and I don't do when we investigate, is we're not aggressive. We've never been aggressive. And I've also worked with Mark quite a few times, who will be with me this weekend, and we don't believe in that. And I think the spirits appreciate that. So, you know, we kind of, I'll get EVPs from same voices as before, but with different things and have different experiences. What about does your staff, do they experience anything?
You know, they don't tell me very many stories, but they're more good listeners for the stories our guests tell.
Okay. I know I never can get anybody to stay, especially Bill. I want to stay and do an investigation. They want to hear about it, but nobody ever wants to do it. And you know, I never understood that until recently, because you know what? If I had to go to work, if I was a non-ghosty person, and I was just, as Kim and I will call it, the non-ghosties, the normal people, but we're normal in our field. And I don't do this as a hobby. I don't know that I'd want to work at the same place that I've been investigating and seeing stuff, because, you know, it might give me the creeps. So I don't know, one of these days we're gonna have you stay and you're gonna investigate with us, and we'll get some of your staff, because we usually do have a good time. Now, Kim and I have had many experiences there, and I know Kim's dying to tell us about one of the ones that she's had, or a couple.
Well, actually, I want to point out that the first Halloween I was there, when I had the footy pajamas. Remember that costume?
Well, I do. I don't know if Florence does.
Deborah and Florence actually did investigate a little bit in the barn that night, because I refused to go out there because of the horse.
Ah, yes, that's right. Florence, I don't know if you remember, but Kim's definitely afraid of horses.
All right.
But yeah, because I offered them my equipment when they went out there, because it was supposed to be my team out there, and I wasn't going. But anyway, experiences there. We've been out. Well, the first thing, actually, while they were in the barn that night investigating, me and my roommate at the time was up in the General Merritt suite eating a sandwich, because we hadn't had dinner yet. And we heard gunshots, rifle shots, and we radioed down to Mike Morris in the barn and asked them if they heard anything, and they didn't hear the shots outside. And then the second time, we were on the porch and heard drums. That rat-a-tat-tat of drums. And then the last time, well, I guess it was the same time, that same weekend, we were down in the basement, over down that long corridor where the crawl space is to get under the new part.
Right.
And I thought I saw a shadow kind of peek out of that hole, only I didn't know it was a hole at the time. So I walked down there to find out what it was, and actually got an EVP of a woman's voice saying Sarah.
Huh. Does that ring a bell, that name, Florence?
You said Sarah?
Yes.
Sarah, yes.
You know, I have had other guests who have identified or mentioned that name. I haven't figured out who Sarah may be, but, you know, obviously over 200 years, a lot of people have lived in that house.
That's true. And not to mention the guests that have come. It doesn't necessarily have to be, older, back in the day. Could be.
Now that's really true because I figure I have about 2,000 guests at least a year. And I've been open 20 years, so we're talking about 40,000 people that have come through.
that'll do it. I mean, well, hey, as I mentioned earlier, you feel so comfortable at home. I would hope that when I go, I get to choose places that I can revisit, and rest assured, maybe 50 years from now, somebody will be doing EVPs and they'll be getting the name of Mary.
They'll be getting. They'll be getting the
EVP. You have stories to tell too.
Oh yeah. I figure Kim and I posted this banner on Facebook not too long ago. And Kim helped me out. I can't remember the exact words, but it was talking about hanging around together on the earth, and we'll catch up in the afterlife, and we'll scare the heck out of people, and we'll do all kinds. Remember that banner we posted?
Yeah.
Kim? Do you remember what it said? But I can picture you and I going back there.
Oh,
yeah. People get in the bed, we start banging on the bed, We'll give them some evidence.
No, see the problem they're going to have is when they get up in the morning and go downstairs and the grape cobbler starts moving slowly off their plate in front of them. Yeah, that will be me.
Florence, you'll get people that's going to tell you, Florence, we really love your place, but there's something that occurs down here every morning when breakfast comes out. Food disappears off of our plate. You'll know it's Kim and I.
Yeah, Mary's after the potatoes, and I'm after the grape cobbler.
Now, I have a suggestion for you. When you come, you should think of the mischief you'll do when you come back and visit in spirit form. You should write it in one of the journals. So that when you come back...
Can I sign it anonymous?
Sign who you are so that people can read about it after the fact.
I'll tell you. But, down in that basement that Kim mentioned, the shadow, we have some video footage. I have to locate it because I do have some for the weekend. But there is some type of light anomaly that occurs not too far from where she's talking about it. And we did everything to try and debunk it, thinking it was like flashlights or the IR camera, the IR lighting bouncing off of something, and we could not duplicate that. And we went back there several other investigations, set the camera up in the exact same spot, hoping to get that, and we never did. So there's little peekaboos going on down there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you think about it, with the war going on, there may have been some soldiers down there hiding, for all you know. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things that go on we'll never find out about. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that go on at the Battlefield Bed and Breakfast. For starters, you do weddings there.
Right, we do an awful lot of weddings because the barn has a capacity of 140 guests, so we do wonderful receptions in the barn. We have a lot of fun with our brides and grooms.
Yes, you do. And I was thinking earlier, if I was getting married right now and doing what I do it started out as a hobby, and now it's kind of consumed. It's like 50-50. There's Mary, the wife, mom, and homemaker kind of person, and then there's this other side of me. And this other side of me would love to have a wedding right there. I mean, besides the history, just the fact that, most people nowadays, when they get married, they got a video going, and you got all the photographers, and, they're recording everything. I wouldn't be looking at the video of the wedding and the pictures just to see how great everything looked. I'd be saying, is that a shadow in the corner over there? You hear that noise in the background on the video?
Well, Mary, and what? 4 more years will be your 40th wedding anniversary. You could always renew your vows. Just saying.
That's right, Florence. We should talk about that. Renewing our vows. Well, yours and mine. That didn't come out right. That would be a cool idea, Kim. Have a renewed vow ceremony there.
Right. It's still a wedding. It's just a re-wedding.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how
Right, we actually do a lot of vow renewals,
See?
and I think that I like your angle where you have paranormal investigators at the wedding who are bringing the spirits in and connecting with them, because after all, don't you have people in your family who are no longer with you? They might want to come.
That's right. That, you know what? You got to, and ladies and gentlemen, that was thought up live here on Just Saying. There's a whole new advertising package for a wedding. You want your ancestors to come? Just we have the mediums and the psychics here, and we'll bring extra guests that you don't have to pay for forward. See that? 2 for the price of 1.
And you only have to pay half the catering cost because they won't eat.
That's right. Oh, I love it. You know what? I'm gonna, Florence. We gotta book that for what would be the year now? Over 14, so it would be 17 because or 18, 2018
What?
or 2017 because we were 36 this past October. All right, it would be 2017, October the 8th, that day. Everybody's invited to join. Yes, October the 8th is our anniversary. Everybody's invited to join Rick and I for our renewal ceremony at the very historic and active Battlefield Bed and Breakfast in Gettysburg. See, I've got it out there now. I can't take it back.
And I would like to mention that the ring bearer will actually be Mary's grandbaby.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I got a grandbaby coming May 9th, due May 9th, little boy. So yes, he could be the ring bearer.
See there, we've got it covered.
Of course, I'll have to use a lot of Vaseline to get the ring off my finger now, but we'll make that happen. But no, I like that idea. All of a sudden, it's like there'll be more photographers and camera people than there are regular guests.
You can just tell everybody to bring a camera for this.
Yeah, bring your camera.
Camera and a voice recorder. There you go.
Oh, you know what? We can get Robin to renew our vows since she's a minister. How's that? We'll put her in. And speaking of Robin Marie, she is in the chat room, and Robin is the wonderful person that was with me back in July, as I had said. And she wanted me to tell you, I have to scroll back here. Robin does photo scrying, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Why don't you refresh me on that? Because I remember about it, but not enough to really elaborate and inform anybody else about it.
Okay, well, Kim, while you're telling Florence that, I'm scrolling back in the chat room to look to see what Robin wanted me to tell Florence.
Well, she just rewrote it, basically.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Okay, hang on.
She said that she had scribed the picture for Florence, and she saw Nordic roots going back to the Vikings.
Yours, Florence. Did you know you have Viking roots? Florence, you with me?
Oh, I didn't hear you then. What was that?
Well, when Robin photoscries, she gets a picture and she looks at it, and it becomes like live, okay? And people come forward out of this picture and talk to her. And she said she saw all the generations in your family and traced them back to like Nordic descent. You have Vikings in your family.
She said going through the Polish and the German.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she blows us away. We have her on the show frequently doing photo scrying. And some of the things she comes up with, we'll send her pictures. And we don't tell her where we are. We don't give her the dates. There's nothing that would indicate what time of the year or anything. And she'll start telling us stuff. The one time we had her on the show, and we couldn't talk for a few seconds. So she says she saw Nordic roots in your family line. They're in there. Going all the way back.
Did I tell her that in advance?
No, because you two never met. When we came,
wow.
We were at that farm all day long, and when we got back to the inn, it was like 8 o'clock at night, and you were long gone. You weren't there, and then of course the next morning she left. You know, right after I went to the hospital, she didn't go back.
Right.
And so you guys have never met at all. And that was one of the things. You know, we were due to do. I was doing book signings and talking about animal communication, and she was going to talk about her book and do some photo scrying the next day. but because I ended up in the hospital, we had to cancel things out.
Right.
So, yeah, she's...
I don't think I knew that she had done that, and it doesn't surprise me because she's absolutely right about the Nordic roots.
Really?
I didn't know she had done that. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
No. Yeah, she's, she just, I can't even remember how she got a picture. I may have sent her a picture of you and I during one of the shows so she could photo scry. I'm not really sure, but she sent me a long message about it, and she says, thank you for confirming.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
And yet,
you know the picture? I remember the picture that I sent her. The very first time I met you, before I even came out there and investigated, it was during the summer. And Rick took a picture. You were sitting on, I guess it's that love seat or sofa up by the steps, going up to the newer section. And I was behind you, leaning over you. And that's the picture I sent her, and that's what she got from it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
She's good.
She is good. She does.
Yeah.
So, I took a stroll over to the website today, and I gotta find it first. I have it marked as specially saved, so I could ask you about this. Let's see how fast and technical I can get. Ta-da! Okay, you have some things coming up besides next weekend, which we're going to talk about after this. But you've got something called Lincoln in Gettysburg, which is February 22nd.
That is one of my favorite events. That Jim Getty is a Lincoln impersonator who lives here in Gettysburg, and I could swear he channels Lincoln. He becomes Lincoln when he is in character, and that we're having an event where first there's a tour that we give our guests of Lincoln's visit to Gettysburg, including the dedication of the cemetery and the delivery of the Gettysburg Address. But then they get to have dinner with President Lincoln. And when they do the dinner with Lincoln, we have tables of 8 all around the dining room. This is at the Abigail Adams room at the historic Dobbin House. And we always have an empty seat at each table. So during dinner, I escort Lincoln from table to table so he can have personal conversations with the guests. And he always stays in period character for 1863, but he has chats with people about the area that they came from. He'll ask where they're from, and then he can comment on the politics of 1863 during the time, or the social conditions in 1863 in the town that they live in. And just like Lincoln, if the guests ask him something that he doesn't know, he answers as if he were Lincoln, and he tells not the answer to the question, but, I don't know that, but I do know somebody who does know, and he'll refer to somebody in 1863 who might be helpful to the person on that particular question. So it's just a wonderful experience to spend time talking to him, and the dinner is always really good, too.
I haven't checked the 22nd. Is that a Saturday?
Yes, it's a Saturday night.
I might have to ask off that day because that sounds like something I would really love to be a part of. And you know what? I'd be sitting there with my audio recorder. So but if I asked a question and Lincoln didn't know the answer and he'd say, ask so-and-so, I would ask the question directly to so-and-so and see if I got a response. That'd be really interesting.
Well, if you did get a response, then you'd have to tell Mr. Lincoln what the answer was, because I'm sure he'd be most interested.
Absolutely. And I know you have something else coming up for the Irish at Gettysburg. That's March 15th.
Right. That has sort of the same format, but we don't have anybody who's channeling in 1863 Irish. But what we do is we have a battlefield guide, Rich Core, who's an expert in the brigade, and we meet the guide out on the battlefield at the Father Corby statue, and then we walk in the footsteps of the Irish Brigade across the wheat field to the Irish Brigade Monument and have a guided tour as we walk. And then we're going out to the Fairfield Inn where we'll have an Irish dinner or an Irish luncheon. And we have an Irish musical group that's going to be performing during lunch.
Oh.
So anybody who loves Irish and who would like to find more about the Irish participation in Gettysburg, that's the weekend that he's here.
Yeah, that sounds. Now, see, now I have to flip a coin on that one because I'm Irish. I have a little bit of German in me, but just walking the battlefield is awesome, and that would be really fun. You know, I've talked to reenactors before, and I've heard from some of them that when they're doing the reenacting, that they have a lot of experiences of having other people charge with them. That's not part of their group.
Yeah, I think that that's a really common experience out here. And one of the most common apparitions on the battlefield is something called the Phantom Regiment. Well, sometimes people will see an entire regiment walking across that isn't really there.
Well, didn't you that one night see like the flash from a battle, basically rifle fire?
Well, yeah, I was going to bring that up when you were saying about hearing, gunfire and things. But if I'm lucky enough to go to the battlefield bed and breakfast in the summertime, it's not unusual for me to grab a chair and go sit out in the field. And I don't know if I ever told you this, Florence, but if you look out facing where you have that tombstone and you have the tree line in the back there, you see a lot of like flashes, like red flashes and the pop. I've heard what sounds like reveille, cannons going off, and this is not something that's occurring now. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. And actually, one of my first visuals of ever seeing anything that's not living was the very first Halloween weekend I was there. And I was facing the field behind the barn, and I was talking to Dinah Roseberry, who happened to come up, co-author of the book, and her back was to the field. And I had Carol Starr next to me, and we were talking to Dinah, and I look up, and I see this horse go walking through the field with a Confederate soldier on his back. The only strange thing about it was the horse was missing its head, and the soldier was from the waist down. And it was just walking, and as fast as it came in front of me, that's how fast it went away. I near died.
I was going to say, that would take me up so much to see that.
I know. So I'm like, and Carol's looking at me. She goes, "Did you see that?" And so what we did was we both wrote down what we saw, and we handed it to Dinah because we didn't want to be influenced by the other, and we both saw identical. And I thought, wow, that was cool, but it was kind of freaky at the same time.
Wow.
Yes. So
powerful.
And of course, if I had the cell phone that I have now, which kind of is like stuck to me, this thing takes video and pictures better than my camera. I'd have been flashing like crazy. But who'd have thought, you're just standing there and, oh yeah, we're having a great time because Dinah had just come. And we looked up and we saw that. I'm like, whoa, that was kind of heavy. Anyway, speaking of events and fun times there is an event coming up this weekend that we should talk about. And that is, should I do the drum roll and you can talk about it and then I can fill in the blanks, or what do you want to do here?
Well, you are the star for this weekend, Mary. I think that you ought to be describing this one.
Well, actually, I'm not the star. I'm one of many. I'm just the one that just kind of has the biggest mouth of all of us, so I kind of tend to take the lead. But no, we have an event coming up this weekend, and it's a paranormal investigation. I will be joined with Mark Sarrow, and I'll give you a little story on Mark, for those who don't know. Mark is actually responsible for me being a paranormal investigator because 7 years ago, he took a chance on bringing me, an old lady, onto the team and taught me well. So most of everything that I know as a paranormal investigator, I learned through Mark Sarrow. we kind of split up after a couple years. I got involved with some things, and he continued to do other things. And about, Kim, 2 years ago, we kind of hooked up again, and Mark's been following me and all the things that I've been doing. And so we kind of joined forces, and we formed Para Co-op. And Para Co-op, what it is it's not an actual team. It's a group of like-minded people that basically are all from all over the United States. We share ideas, and if we're able to get together, fine. And Mark's the brains behind the production operation of it. Me, I'm very tech challenged. So he's the one that gets us online and sets up the equipment and all that other good stuff. And I kind of go out and do the investigation. But we do have a paranormal investigation scheduled. It will be live at 8 o'clock until midnight on www.livestream.com/ITC Lounge. Prior to that, with your guests, I will be doing like a Para 101, because I love it when people come to your place and this is the first time that they're doing an investigation. And I feel it's kind of like a really good time to sit down and talk to people and give them proper instructions on what's involved in a paranormal investigation. So I will be doing that. I will be showing them the equipment. I will be taking them into our production room so they can see exactly what's involved on the cameras that are working and going live on the internet. And I'll do evidence review and all that other cool stuff, and then we'll go off and do our investigation. And the beauty of it is the breakfast the next morning, where we all sit around while we eat and talk about our experiences, and it's just fun. I just love doing it at your location, because a lot of the people that come are first timers, and it's really neat to see the expressions on their face when they see the evidence that we've gotten from there before, or they're out in the barn and something touches them. It's really fun. And as always, Marla Brooks comes along with me. She will be live via Skype. She will be doing our circle of protection. And one of the reasons why we do that, Florence, at every investigation is it reminds me of one time Mark and I were up in Gettysburg, and our team, we were going to the Jenny Wade house to give them evidence review, because we were able to get in there one night and do an investigation. And we were at one part of the battlefield, I believe we were at Devil's Den, and people were pulling up in droves and vans, and little kids were getting out. And they're out with their meters and dowsing rods and everything, and then they jump back into the van and they go to another location. And I thought, how irresponsible of these parents. They don't understand the seriousness on paranormal investigating. One of the things that Marla does with the circle of protection, and it's exactly that, it's protecting us from spirits that may not, I'm not saying that they're harmful, but she puts a little clause in there, no hitchhikers. So when we're done the investigation, whatever is at the battlefield bed and breakfast stays there and doesn't follow you home. So, everything that we do with an investigation, we take all kind of precautions and make sure everybody's safe. So she will be part of the investigation next week. And then I hear you're going to have some cool hors d'oeuvres. Kim.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, my job is food. We're going to have some wonderful, delicious hors d'oeuvres to keep everybody inspired and keep them happy during the evening. We'll focus on the hors d'oeuvres in the evening and on the breakfast in the morning.
This is not okay behavior.
Hey, I told you I'd fly you out here. You don't want to come. I don't understand why she doesn't want to come to our weather. I mean, it's, puffins you up. Hey,
Every time I go to the bed and breakfast, just once, I would like to be able to go outside without, an inside-out umbrella or snowshoes.
Kim was there last time for Hurricane Sandy.
And the time before that was that weird blizzard.
Oh yeah, the year before that, we were at another location and just about made it to yours, because do you remember that like blizzard-like thing 2 years ago at Halloween? So yeah, you know what?
Don't even, we've already had this conversation. Do not go there, Mary. It is not my fault.
She knows what I was going to say. Maybe we won't invite her. That's funny.
Okay. Okay.
I'm bad. One other thing I did mention with the invitation next weekend is for anybody who would like to come. I know Florence is selling tickets to come to the investigation, but let's just say you want to experience it, but you don't actually want to physically experience it. Go out, at however the temperature is out in the field or down in the basement. We will be setting up all of our cameras. You'll be able to view on. You have a fairly large television in your one big living room area there. And we'll be hooking up our cameras so people can sit on the sofa or whatever and watch the investigation going on live.
Right, and that'll be near the food, so that counts.
I see how this plays out.
That's right. Way to go, Florence. You can see Kim's face, it's funny. Anyway, we want to thank you for joining us.
Well, I did.
That's true. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, and this is really important, and I can't believe I didn't mention it. My book, Animals Impacting the World, that we show every week, Very-Very's in this book. I'm holding up a copy of the book.
That's right, the horse.
So, Very-Very the horse, the horse with the attitude, he's in the book here, so I can't wait to see him.
Right, so come to the end, you can meet him in person.
That's right. As long as you don't talk apples, he's good. So, anyway, Florence, thank you so much for joining us. And if anybody can get a hold of you, or anybody needs to get a hold of you, yeah. Anyway, so I got all excited about the food again.
How can they contact you, Florence?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you both. I really enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Right. No, we were asking about getting a hold of you, and I would assume that they can contact you at the bed and breakfast, and the website is www.gettysburgbattlefield.com. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of rooms left, so get on that website and get those tickets for next week, because we are going to have some fun.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. I give her a hard time, but you definitely want to be there.
Exactly. Florence, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you over the weekend.
All right. Thank you, Mary.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Neener, I'm going to get good hors d'oeuvres next week. Sorry, I had to do that.
I will say, though, you did not know of my magical dowsing powers until we did that.
That's
up
true.
There.
We have to bring that up since we don't have to rush off like we usually do we? I mean, normally we have to get out of here 5 up, but
no,
we
we're
have
good.
An extra minute. Kim totally amazed me, and she's the driving force on me with my dowsing rods now, because I've never seen anybody use dowsing rods like Kim. Awesome.
But I did my, I guess, presentation, or however you want to call it, there for some of the guests one evening, and the look on Mary's face for once.
I know. Well, when I was doing the presentation of the equipment, I asked you to do the dowsing rods, and when you were done, it took me a little bit to compose myself to start going, so, because you were so good. Anyway, next week, do you know who our guest is next week?
If I peek in my book, I might.
I know. I even have a prop for it.
Oh, no.
All right. Here we go. We have none other than Jody Cook, and we're going to talk about his new book, Werewolves, Myths, and Legends. And I have it, so be prepared. It's going to be a fun show.
Oh, I was completely off.
It's a good thing one of us know what's going on here. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And for those that are in the area and wish to come to Gettysburg next weekend, I think there's like 3 rooms left. Or if you just want to come and investigate, let Florence know. And the door is wide open for you to come in.
Get a room. Get the grape cobbler. I'm telling you.
Speaking of getting a room, if I plan a 40th wedding anniversary, kind of redoing our vows, do I get a bridal shower?
I'll give you a shower.
All right. I'm seriously thinking about doing that. I think I might want to do that.
Hey,
So all my paranormal buddies are invited.
me and Sal could take all the old Two Fingers out for another bachelor party.
Yeah, anything that'll put a big smile on his face. Make sure there's plenty of hot wings.
They'll take him to Friendly's for extra ice cream. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he likes that. All right, well, that's it for me, and I don't know what you got going on.
I got nothing.
Friday,
Well, you
Mark-
do have a show on Friday, and you have a show at Metaluna
Mhm.
Boutiques and Stones.
Mark and...
Debbie Constantino.
Oh, Friday on Pima TV, we have Mark and Debbie Constantino.
Awesome.
And if you happen to go over to Metaluna Boutique and Stones.com, there's all kinds of new jewelry. There is new purses, perfumes, clothing, all kinds of new stuff.
Awesome. So don't be left out in the cold. Be cool and get something neat.
That's right. And with that, we're going to skedaddle before Mary and I start throwing stuff at each other.
Good night, everybody.
Night.